Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, and definitely another exciting guest. Now, our guest today, you will probably recognize by his legendary sister, which we'll get into in this conversation. But the day is about him, and let me tell you how the universe works. I'm a big history fan, as everybody knows. I taught history and physical education, kindergarten through eighth, for many years. But even as a child, I always questioned the truth. And what I mean by that is, I always was, is this really what happened? Because the stuff didn't add up. And as a young kid, I know you might find that kind of hard to believe, but I clearly remember getting in trouble in elementary school because my questions were truly not questions that teachers were prepared to answer. So let's go deeper here with today's story. I love the story of Abraham Lincoln. And the reason why that is such a historical moment in history for us as, I don't like using the word Negro and so forth, but us of a different culture. It's a pivotal point that we don't really know if it's true or not. But if you watch the movie Glory with Denzel Washington and other movies like Lincoln, if you really pay attention, there are some things that was left out of the history books that the actors that portrayed him allowed him to reveal. I'm a firm believer in the truth always shows itself, but sometimes you got to be a little bit open and able to listen and comprehend to understand the breadcrumbs. Today on the show, we have a young man who definitely questioned the truth and became a truth seeker, but a truth seeker of knowledge. And then decided to take that knowledge and making it a mission to share, because knowledge kept inside does nobody any good. So let's welcome to the show the one, the only Mr. Tom Bailey Jr. What's up, big guy?
Good morning. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have a chance to see you for a second time and to expose the world to what's been hidden.
Before we go with what's been hidden and all that, I want you to get comfortable. I want you to turn around towards me, and we just, you want something to drink?
I do not.
We're gonna get comfortable, and we're gonna.
I'm not going to tell him. I'm not going to tell him what's on that counter over there. Okay, so
yeah, don't do that. Everybody will be trying to book to get on.
Exactly.
Before we get into the book.
Okay.
Before we get into the book, tell me a little bit about you.
There's nothing really special about me academically or professionally. I'm a person who has been affected by the things that I've learned in life that have had a great impact on my self-esteem that I didn't know at the time was having an effect on my self-esteem. You mentioned Lincoln, for example. I started school in 1957. And we were told that we were slaves, heathens basically running through the jungles of Africa. And then we were captured into slavery, which was a step up.
Mm-hmm.
And now because of Mr. Abraham Lincoln and the great white folks of the North, we are now the civilized Negroes that you see today. This didn't set well with me at 5 years old.
That's crazy, because that was about around the age that it didn't set well with me, and I was starting school and had questions, and the teachers were like, that's not history.
Yes. Very true, yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't actually have any history. But something, even today, though, you can go to any school right now.
Yeah.
And you can ask the kids there, what is the beginning of Black history? And to do it Monday, and you'll find the kids will say 100 years, 200 years, or slavery. It started with slavery.
Right.
But in reality, slavery was not the beginning of Black history. Slavery was an interruption.
Right.
To Black history, as if we had nothing before we met the Europeans.
Right.
And this is what they have wanted us to believe.
In other words, they flip in the same script that they gave us, they gave to the Native Americans, and basically
to their own children.
And to their own children. And the tripped out part is how we become colonialized to adapt this ideology, and more importantly, to not even question it. I think I got in trouble because I questioned it. You got reprimanded for questioning it as well. So we're not the only ones that's questioning what we've been taught.
Well, you see, it didn't start with the first generation. You had the first generation; they were a little challenged to control because many of them were warriors. Some of them, of course, drowned themselves on the way over. Some of them just refused to be enslaved, and some of them had to bend to the will of the whip. But it was the second generation, those children who were born into this, who knew nothing but this, where things became a little easier for them to control.
And there were several other things that also helped to allow the control system to take place, and that was the introduction of spirituality.
And the fear of losing their children. No matter how much of a warrior you are, if someone threatens you with the life of your child, not being able to see your child, generally you will decide to accept what they do just so that your children will live or that your children will be with you. This is how they controlled first generations. The second generation, of course, didn't need that because they were born into this thing. They need nothing other than it.
You talk about the generation and the things that somewhat minimized you growing up in school. What was that like for you growing up in school from elementary to high school? What was that like?
I thought that everything that we had was given to us by white people. That we had no real identity. I didn't know that I did not have a feeling of identity because I didn't know anything else. I just thought that I identified only with that which was in front of us. I realized I was a black child right before my 11th birthday. I didn't know. I said, I'm in here. So I didn't know.
What do you mean? Go deeper with that, because that just, I think people need to listen. I didn't know. You didn't know. What did you know?
I knew that I was a person, but I didn't know. I knew how I saw myself to some extent, but I didn't know what America saw when they looked at me.
That's deep.
Right. And it was right before my 11th birthday, because I wanted to fly when I was a kid. My mother asked me when I was 8 years old what I wanted to do. I said, Mom, I want to fly, right?
Right.
Well, I realized right before my 11th birthday, this is an interesting story, that I was a black child. I thought, oh, they're not going to let me fly. You know?
Black meant limitations.
Black meant limitations. And right before my 11th, in fact, it was January of 1963, right before my 11th birthday, which was in February.
You know, my birthday is January 21st.
Oh, real? Okay. My 17th February. Okay. And I realized they wouldn't let me fly. And so that took something out of me.
Right.
School meant nothing to me.
Right.
After that point, I mean, I'm a two-time high school dropout. I got my high school diploma in the Army when I was 21 years old. Let's just say there's nothing really special about me academically. And it's amazing, too. If I can just detour just for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 minutes, all right? I learned in my adulthood that my father drove the Red Ball Express in World War II. I called up my friend. His name is Jeff Joseph. I called up my friend and said, hey, Jeff, my daddy drove the ball. He says, well, my daddy flew with the Tuskegee Airmen. I said, Jeff, no, he didn't. He said he did. I said, Jeff, please tell me that your father did not fly with the Tuskegee Airmen. He said, Tom, yes, he did. I called up Mr. Joseph, who was still living at the time. I said, Mr. Joseph, I said, because I was over the house all the time as a child. Mm-hmm. I said, Mr. Joseph, I said, did you fly with the Tuskegee Airmen? He said, yes, I did. I said, my God, if I had only known, I would have sat at your feet.
And learned.
Because he would have told me.
How to do it.
He would have told me what to take in school. He would have told me what school is for. He would have told me who would be standing against me, what my obstacles were. I would have flown had I known that this man had done it because he was a black man. So I had my dream in my hands, and it slipped through my fingers when I found out that I was black.
But then that's, I can relate to what you said wholeheartedly, because I was born in the 60s. And I remember wholeheartedly the moment that the identity of color came into play. Also remember the limitations that was put up on me. The shocking part was it really didn't have an effect until my high school years when I went to the counselor. You know, they always send you to the counselor about your 11th year before you graduate, and she basically told me, she was like, you got two choices. You're either gonna go to a trade school, you might try to get on that Procter and Gamble, but the only way you're gonna go to college is you're gonna have to be an athlete. And I remember asking myself, this is exactly what I said to myself, what the fuck am I doing? Seriously, I was like, what was all this for if I'm limited and the only way I'm going to be identified in a higher level of education is I basically got to be an athlete, which I was.
You have to display the obvious.
Yeah.
Right, the obvious.
The obvious is we're black and you can run and jump and
exactly.
But I was more than that. You know, I really buckled down, but I knew I had academic skill levels. Mm-hmm. So I can relate to what you're saying on that.
My father tried to protect me because I had dreams.
Bring that mic up more because I want people to hear
have
you.
Dreams. And but he told me something. He said, son, he said, because he farmed in Mississippi. He farmed 18 acres until World War II, until he went to the Army. And he said, son, he says, on the farm next to mine, he said, there were two white boys. He said, I could do everything better than those boys. It's faster, stronger. I could play better ball. He said, and I could do as much work as both of them put together. He said, but son, he said, they were still white and I wasn't.
Yeah.
He was trying to protect me from my dreams before the world destroyed me.
How would the world have destroyed you? I think the viewers need to understand that.
Because I was sensitized to my dreams. And he wanted to get me accustomed to not achieving them. He was protecting me. He didn't know that he was breaking my heart.
Right.
And he was adding tolerance to me in his mind, which in a sense it worked because I was accepting of a lower level because of this, because that which I need to be to achieve it can never be achieved. I'm in this body until death do us part.
And I think a lot of people have been conditioned like that. I don't think I think the difference between me and you on that aspect is my father wasn't there. He was there with this, but he wasn't there here.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to learn who he was from the peers, others. Yeah. But I remember telling myself after I had an awakening within myself, I always go to the sand dunes, and early in the morning I just camp out, and I just woke up one day and said, I'm better than this. I'm gonna take all what they say I can't, and I'm gonna become I can, I will, and I won't stop.
I'll tell you another short story. Back to my same friend, Jeff Joseph. We were friends since kindergarten. We started school on the first day together, and we're still friends to this day.
Really?
To this day. We're 73. We're about to be 74. He's 12 years older than me. We're about to be 74 here in a couple of months. And
you know you don't look nowhere near 74.
By the grace of God.
Black don't cry, do it?
It don't. But still skating, too.
Really?
Y'all, I'm tearing the floor up.
Okay.
tearing the floor up. And so Jeff would come to the bar. I was a barber. And Jeff would come to the barbershop to bring his nephews. And Jeff was always a business-minded. Even at 12 years old, he knew what the different businesses were doing in the neighborhood, what they were about, and everything else. And Jeff was the spook who sat by the door. Okay, he was the one that would go out and come back and tell you what white folks are doing. All right. So,
really?
Oh yeah, Jeff was this brother is. So I hope he gets a chance to see this what we're doing right now. He's just a welcome. I got a couple people like him, and I won't go through all of their names. They know who they are. You know who you are. So, but anyway, Jeff came to the barbershop, and I never would just wanted to cut a head of hair. It was only $6. This is back in the 70s. I need to cut some hair. I want to do a beard trim. I want to do a facial. Right. I want to sell my customer a package. So Jeff was selling for Minolta downtown on the Gold Coast and in Chicago, 444 North Michigan, all right?
Okay.
For Minolta, when copiers were new, when everybody needed one. So
and I bought one too.
Okay, so he looks at me and he says, Tom, he says, you can sell. I said, sell. I'm on a west side of Chicago barbershop. You know where I'm at. I'm in the ghetto, right?
Yeah.
He said, you can sell. I said, sell what?
Right.
He said, Tom, you can sell. I said, you mean downtown? He said, Tom, you're already doing it. That lifted me.
Really?
Honest to God. I went, he set me up an interview. I'm telling this business. He set me up an interview with the general manager, by which I went to the interview. He walked into the interview with the general manager, didn't even look at me. He didn't even know me. You found, but he had already told me what to do.
Right.
I got a job selling copiers, man, from Minolta, downtown Chicago. And I had no more business being there than I did at being on the space shuttle. I did. But I saw something.
Right.
I saw something that I had in myself that was skill oriented.
Okay.
That could lift me to where I wanted to go, despite the fact that I got a high school diploma in the military at the age of 21. I'm with people that have college degrees, phenomenal degrees, and I can compete because my business wasn't with them. My business was with the public. So the only thing I had to do was to get out of the office, get into the face of the customer, and my natural skills, my natural ability to adapt, okay, would rule and earn me a good living. And I've had a very good living.
Now, let's go back a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I think people need to understand this. The military says be all you can be.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you? Because evidently they didn't give you the skill set when you got out.
That's because I had what's called, what in the military was called a combat MOS. And the only reason I went into the military is that everything that I was doing at the time on the west side of Chicago had dead end written on it, and God let me see that. And I became frightened of what would happen to me if I stayed here any longer.
Okay.
So I signed myself in the military to escape what I was doing,
Okay.
what I was involved in. And in a sense, it saved my life. I was only the stroke of an ink pen from Vietnam. I mean, they actually gave me orders for Vietnam in 1972. And I went out to ship out, and at the time they said no more combat MOSs would be sent to Vietnam. They rerouted me and sent me to a combat-ready unit in Germany. I hated the military, but I liked what it did for my life.
Why did you hate it?
Oh, I have never run into more racism than I have in my life that I ran into the military.
Really?
Oh, man. I actually, yeah. When I went into the military, they asked me what I wanted to be. I told them a military policeman, but I didn't have my driver's license with me. So they said, I'll tell you what, just go in there and raise your hand for 2 years, okay? Because once you raise your hand, you're in there, okay? And then when you get to the reception center, ask what you want then enlist for the other year. So I get to the reception center, and I said, okay, I want to be an MP. They said, well, the option's closed, okay? I said, what about engineer? Oh, sorry, the option's closed. I said, well, what about armor? Can I drive a tank? You want to go armor? Sure, you can go armor. Good. And they made me armor, right? I thought. So I'm down on the line. I'm firing. My weapon, my drill sergeant kicks my foot. He said, hey, Bailey. I said, I do not want infantry, by the way. I told him, I do not want infantry because I knew what it was. He said, Bailey. He said, fire that weapon good, boy. He says, because you infantry. I said, I said, I'm going 2nd Armor Division. I've already got my stuff back at the barracks. He said, that's right. You're going to 2nd Armor Division, but you won't be in the tank. And I went back and I looked at my orders and my MOS. They had made me infantry. And I'll admit something. I'll admit something. I sit there and I cried, not out of weakness. I cried that they could betray me in such a way because I actually gave an additional year of my life to get what I wanted. And then they took three non-black 2-year regular Army people and made them military policemen, gave them what I asked for after telling me the option was closed.
Why do you think that happened?
They were not going to give me what I wanted. Their job was to put as many black folk in the face of the enemy as they possibly could. It wasn't much different than what they would like to do now. because the more blacks you have in combat, the more of us are going to die. Literally. So these guys, they definitely, and all my scores, all the things I wanted to do, I had phenomenal scores. I mean, I could have been a jet mechanic and everything. My mechanicals, I'm a good mechanic, and I still build my own motorcycle. So my mechanical score was off the chain, and no consideration for that at all. I could have been so many different things that they were not going to let me have because it would be better than what they have. And none of these were black people. So they wanted to basically, so they laughed at me. So when I left out of the office that day, they laughed at me because they knew what they had just done for me. They knew they had lied to me. They knew that they had altered the course of my life, and it was fun for them. And so,
how did you turn something negative into something positive? Because you're there for another year.
No, 3 years.
3 years.
I didn't when I got to Fort Hood, they had a sign up saying, "Do you want to be an MP?" I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, well, they made me a military policeman at Fort Hood, and I picked it up as what's called a secondary MOS. But when they gave me orders for Vietnam, which was in June of 72, May of 72 when I got back, May of 72, I left there in June, you leave out in your primary MOS. But so I didn't get the opportunity to stay as a military policeman long. I ended up back in combat arms, and I spent the next 2 years of my life in the combat ready unit in Baumholder, Germany. And so I was glad to leave.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was glad to leave.
You get back to the States, and let's go into this book.
Okay.
Let's go into his own words. Lincoln's Letters Revealed, a very powerful book that you wrote. What was your impression of Lincoln before diving into this book? What were you taught about him? Did you like him? Did you know anything about him?
Oh, Lincoln, to not just me, all black people, Lincoln was the greatest president of all. He saved us from slavery, I thought. He loved black folk, felt sorry for us, I thought. And therefore, him and the white folks of the North risked their lives, their family, their money, their land to come down and save us from the tyranny of the slavery.
You thought.
I thought. Right? Yeah.
No, we thought.
We thought. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what we were taught. This is why he is their greatest president. And then to find out that none of what we were taught is true.
Yeah.
None of it. I mean, when I say none of it is actually true. And in my book, I can prove it in the words of Abraham Lincoln himself.
Let's go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
It like I said, it's funny how things work out, because my favorite movie is Glory.
Okay.
Love it to death.
And let me just one interruption.
Go ahead.
You know what's in Glory? They didn't take the hill.
I know.
I just want you to understand. In Glory, they made a great movie, okay?
Yeah.
But they did not give them victory in the end.
They didn't give them victories in several of their encounters before the hill, because other things were going on during the Civil War that black military individuals were put on the back list, or they didn't even get the recognition for it.
So there were many things about Glory that were not accurate. And the most inaccurate thing about Glory is that in that movie, glory was not achieved.
No.
But yet they called it Glory.
Yeah.
Another trick. But that's we'll talk about that.
But what I was getting ready to say with that, and you're right, it was a great movie, misleading with its accuracy on what actually took place, and more importantly, the reason why these things took place. Because people need to remember, most white people had never encountered a Negro.
They're not especially not as a man.
Right.
As a man.
This world was the America was choked with the presence of Negroes when some white people had never even seen Negroes.
I had a guy once asked me this. I was working at Eastgate Chrysler, and he said, "Tom, this is 30 years ago." He said, "How come you see so many of these white girls walking in here, good-looking white girls, with these black guys?" His name is Randy. I said, "Hurts Randy?" He said, "Yeah, it does." I said, "It's the fault of your media." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You all accepted and have accepted for some time that black people get very special physical gifts." He said, "You do." I said, "But you can still claim intellectual superiority." I said, "But when you get people like Michael Jordan or Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, and you put them on television and you interview them, and you can see that they're clearly intellectuals, but yet physically they are the best at what they do on the planet Earth." So not just black women want that. All women want that. I say it's the fault of your media. You let us be seen as we are. That's why they're coming in it with these black men. I just laughed. So, as long as you could keep the truth hidden. I'm not saying people should go out and have an interracial relationship. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that when you mentioned they had not known black people,
right,
which means they had what their parents had told them about black people. They're next to monkeys. They are not intellectuals.
I have a friend. I'm gonna cut you off for a minute. I have a friend, right? This is so funny. She's from Lithuania, and her husband and her family told them the same thing about blacks because I guess when she grew up, there were no black people in Lithuania. And she said she came here that she had that same mindset.
Looking for a tail, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, are you serious? There's no black people in Lithuania? She said, Dre, we never seen black people. She said, there's blacks now. He said, but when I grew up, man, she said no. And when I came to America, she openly admitted she was racist.
Yeah. But that was an innocent racism.
Right.
I mean, that was just fear of the unknown.
Well, she's still fearful because I said, well, do you have any black friends now? You and your husband, you have any black friends? No. Well, then you're still fearful to the belief that somebody instilled in you.
Yeah. And true. And you know something? They don't have any really reason to fear us. Black people do not have a history of killing white people. White people have a history
of killing
black people.
No, people.
People. Yeah, okay.
People.
So and it's amazing too. And I think this goes back to being God's chosen. We've never hated them.
No.
Of everything that we've endured here as a people, they've always been welcome to our home to have some chicken. Okay.
And cornbread.
And collard greens. They've always been welcome in our environment, always been welcome in our neighborhood. We have always wanted peace with them. We've never hated them. But yet, as little as we have done to them, yet we are hated by them. Not all, of course, and not necessarily even many.
Right.
Many are still afraid of us. We're hated by a few of them. But we've never hated them.
Let's go back for a minute and talk about how all this transition into his own words, the Lincoln's letters reveal.
I can tell you where it started.
What was you gave me your concept on your theory of Lincoln, but when you found out the letters revealed, how did that impact your overall view?
This started 40 years ago. I have a book called 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof, written by J.A. Rogers, I think in 1934. And in this book, there are a couple of paragraphs of a couple of these letters. It never quite settled inside of me. There was always something inside of me that wanted more from what I saw. Because if those paragraphs are true, then we've had more impact on the Civil War than what I had been taught in school. I didn't have access to the internet then. It didn't exist. So being as I never settled inside of me, I eventually began to do the research. And I found these letters.
What didn't settle with you? Let's start there. What was it that didn't settle with you? Because usually what happens is when you're being taught history, certain information causes a curiosity. What were some of those things that...
It was an impactful paragraph. to the only way that I'm looking at this book, the only way this paragraph can be true is if we had a greater impact than what I have ever learned in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to seek out that impact. I also knew the Tuskegee Airmen, and then later on, and how they were squelched. I knew of the Red Ball Express and how they were squelched. I found out that in World War I, blacks did not fight for the American flag; they fought for the French flag.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no battle was lost, no prisoner was taken, not one piece of ground given. That was squelched. So then I became more and more curious with those absolute paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
Something inside the Civil War was squelched, and I went looking for the information.
What were some of the things with your information? I see you got your notes here that was not acknowledged that Lincoln said.
Oh, wow. None.
Really?
There's nothing that I learned from the paragraph of those letters or from the letters that are in this book that coincide with what I was taught in school.
Give me an example.
Okay. The Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves, right?
No.
It did not, right?
Yeah.
But that's what we grew up believing, right?
Right.
All you got to do is read it. It only freed those slaves that were in the Confederate states that had already left the Union upon which he had no control.
Right.
Secondly, the Emancipation Proclamation was no more than a quid pro quo that Lincoln used to build the black army that he needed to defeat the South, because he didn't have the soldiers. He needed these black soldiers, and he says so. But these letters were squelched. Historians,
Well, they did say something like that in the movie Lincoln.
mm-hmm.
They didn't say it in Glory, because Lincoln didn't really have a say so in that movie. That movie was a pigmentation about taking over that hill. But in Lincoln, they showed that particular scene what you're talking about in the movie, but if you're not paying attention to it, is what I'm saying. If you're not paying attention to what he's saying as he's writing the Emancipation Proclamation,
Mm-hmm.
it'll go past you. And I think the reason that it goes past a lot of people that probably seen that movie is because, like you said, we was taught one way, and once your mind is physically set on that, you miss the message.
Let me read you something that he says about the Emancipation
Go ahead.
Proclamation. These are Lincoln's own words. And his
Put that
own
mic up to you so we can hear.
I just got to get the book on. Here we go. He says, this is the Emancipation Proclamation. He says, I view the matter as a practical war measure to be decided upon according to the advantages or disadvantages it may offer to the suppression of the rebellion. Simple as that. He said, I view the matter, the Emancipation Proclamation, as a practical war measure to be decided upon according to the advantages or disadvantages it may offer to the suppression of the rebellion.
Mm.
William Seward, his Secretary of State at the time, said, we show our sympathy with slavery by emancipating slaves where we cannot reach them and holding them in bondage where we can set them free. You see, because he told Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware, you can keep your slaves if you just don't leave the Union. Lincoln did not abolish slavery. He did not have the ability to do that. It took an act of Congress.
Right.
It actually happened 2 months before the war ended that they actually did. And it wasn't ratified until December of 1865, 8 months after Lincoln was dead. So we had already won the war
Mm-hmm.
before we were technically, and in terms of the Constitution, free. We had already won the war. We had already defeated the enemy before we were actually free. And that was done 2 months before the war ended. The war ended in April of 1865. And it was done in, this is actually written out, the Constitution, in February and ratified in December of that same year. So you see, it was never about freedom.
Right.
It was only about war.
Right.
He needed us. He could not win without us. He even said, he said, we cannot win this by democratic strategy. Another one of his letters, he said it would sacrifice the lives of all the white men of the North to do it. He didn't have the soldiers. And he admits it. He needed us to go and do this for him. And when we heard of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is where the North was not at, we were in the South. We heard that the president said, we's free.
Right.
Okay. So basically we did what we could have done 50 years before.
Walked off.
We walked off. Okay. Because what is 6 slave owners going to do with 300 slaves that walk off?
Not a damn thing.
Not a thing.
Not a damn thing.
Not a thing. And so with that in mind, we always had the power to free ourselves. So you see, we freed ourselves.
Yeah.
Lincoln did not do it. In fact, he did not save us. We saved them.
Yeah.
America's greatest threat to its existence was eliminated by black men whom it had formerly enslaved. And the historians, not only did they write it out of history, they actually took credit for the victory.
I think you need to say that again, because I don't think
The greatest threat that the United States has ever known to its existence was eliminated by black men whom it had formerly enslaved. See? And historians not only wrote it out of history, they took credit for the victory.
Let me ask you a question. I think people need to understand where we're going with this too. Just imagine, if you will, listeners and people that are watching this show. And let me clarify something right now, so people don't start sending crazy shit talking about black and white and all this. It had nothing to do with that.
No.
Not a damn thing. Because there was just as many white people that was against slavery as it was whites that was for it. And most of the white people that were for slavery realized during the Civil War they was fighting a losing cause, because number one, they didn't even own slaves.
Right.
They didn't own the slaves.
And there were many slaves who actually fought for the South.
Right.
There are many slaves who fought for their slave masters.
Yeah, yeah.
They did.
And people don't know that.
But there were. In fact, there was even talk of restoring them to slavery.
Can you find it in there?
Oh yeah, I can find it. I just need 2 hands. That's all. And they, if your guest will pardon me for a moment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
As I thumb through here and reach the page I want to get to, there was talk of restoring them to slavery, and elections were coming up. And Lincoln was saying to them, okay, because as we talked about restoring them, he says, abandon. He says the He said the party, the Republican Party, the party who would elect a president on a war and slavery restoration platform would of necessity lose the colored force, and that force being lost would be as powerless to save the Union as to do any other impossible thing. It is not a question of sentiment or taste, but one of physical force which may be measured and estimated as horsepower and steam power are measured and estimated. And by measurement, it is more than we can lose and live. Nor can we, by discarding it, get a white force in place of it. That's a letter. This was a letter that he wrote to Charles Robinson, August 17th, 1864. And that's only a paragraph. It's a very extensive letter. He wrote that to Charles Robinson on August 17th, 1864.
So what he's saying in short is, without the power of the black hand,
we lose.
We lose. Now, I'm glad you read that, because this is where I'm going with this so people can understand. This changed the whole trajectory of Union versus Confederacy.
Right.
So just imagine, had it not been for the will of the black officer, the black military force, what do you think would have happened?
He actually says that.
Tell me. Go.
He says he says drive back to the support of the rebellion, the physical force which the colored people now give, and promise us or any other president nor any coming administration can save the Union. Take from us and give to the enemy the 130, the 140,000, 150,000 colored men, persons now serving us as soldiers, seamen, and laborers, and we can no longer maintain the contest.
And what was the contest?
To save the Union.
And what was the Union? I think that's what people need to understand. What's the difference between the Union and the Confederacy?
The Confederacy were once the part of the Union who, for their own sake of independence, wanted to leave the Union, and then actually did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the war was not started by the North; it was started by the South when they fired on Fort Sumter.
Yeah.
So it was the South who actually started the war when they wanted to leave, and the North was not prepared for this war. They didn't have the passion for this war because the Confederacy was fighting for their life. You see, so it's basically like, could be like like Vietnam or Ukraine. It's hard to defeat people on their own land,
right,
when they are fighting for their right to live and to be who they are.
Well, the Confederacy fighting to keep the empire. What I mean by the empire is
exactly. No, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
right.
They was trying to keep the crops, the cotton, they controlled the monopoly. If you're talking about monopoly, they controlled the monopoly game. The North didn't, but they also controlled two different types of income. You had the Confederacy currency, and you had the Americans that was trying to do a different type of currency that also played. Basically, the war became an economic power struggle. North against the South, development versus what I would call slave labor, and at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you this question based on the letters that's in this book, and I do encourage the viewers to go get this book. It's authentic, the letters are real, and the words and unaltered in his own words, Lincoln's letters reveal. So let's go here. How much of an impact do you think it would have been had those slaves not left the land? Had Lincoln not built a military force? And I mean, this is hypothetical, but from a man of color, what do you think would have happened to this whole country?
That would only be my opinion. The South was hardened. The North was not. Like they fired on Fort Sumter.
Yeah,
I believe they would have come north. I believe that the greed of all of these men was such that none of them would ever have been satisfied with what they already had. And if they were able to successfully leave the Union and command respect as a nation, I believe they would start looking north, just like they looked south to Mexico and took parts of that. But that's how we got Texas. I believe they would have come north. But that's my personal belief.
Mm-hmm.
Out of greed. I mean, how these people who were enslaving other men, you cannot enslave other men and have limits.
Right.
They had no limits.
Right.
And I believe out of that limitless aggression that they would have come north. I don't have any proof of that other than them firing on Fort Sumter. But that is my belief. But the historians historians are in a very strange position right now. Historian, because we have a narrative, and teachers right now who are teaching this crap in school about Lincoln, they don't know they're lying,
right? Because
they have access to the same books that we have, right? They taught us. Historians either knew about the letters and lied about the Civil War, or they didn't know about the letters and they lied about being a historian. Only two choices they got.
Mm-hmm.
Either you knew about the letters and you lied about the Civil War, or you didn't know about these letters and you lied about being a historian. The question is, why did they do that? And I have an answer.
What's the answer?
When they won the war, they all became white men again. North and South.
Okay, hold that thought.
Okay.
I just got a download. Okay, hold that thought. Glory. This is Denzel Washington's famous line. I can't think of the guy's name who played his leader. I see his picture.
Morgan Freeman?
No, not Morgan Freeman. It was Matthew. Yeah, Brock. He said, remember, he tried to get him to bear the flag. He said, I'm not carrying that flag. He said, I'm fighting this for a whole different reason. And he told him exactly what you said. He said, you guys going to go back to being white men. Where do I go back to?
Yeah.
And he couldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
And he said, well, none of y'all going to win. He said, somebody's got to win. But at the end of the day, who did win?
White men. Because what happened was that they could not admit in any literature that these docile, childlike Negroes, actually defeated us in battle. We also, the North, could not acknowledge that we won a battle for them. Just like the Tuskegee Airmen, for example, had saved bomber pilots in World War II who were offended that they saved them. How dare you? Can't save me. That puts you on equal
ground
with me. You can't save me. So they were not about to admit that and have that written down. And they needed to be superior. If we knew and our children knew, okay, I told you how I felt to realize that we were saved by Lincoln because we were weak, docile, and he came out to save us. What would I have felt if I had known that we were the ones who saved Lincoln? What kind of pride would that have filled me with? The first time I remember being happy that I was a black person, I was 14 years old. When I realized that the Temptations, the black music I was listening to, we wrote it. I thought everything that we had was handed to us by white people. That was the only information I had. I had nothing about me in any of the history books in school, which I wasn't interested in history because I wasn't in it. So
well, you was in it, but it wasn't. It was documented. It was altered
significantly.
Yeah, you was in it
significantly.
Yeah,
right.
But it was altered
because white people invented all of the wonderful things that we see, and black people, of course, invented nothing.
Well,
and
they said we invented the cotton gin, Eli
Willie. Also, Whitney, but also too, I've heard white people say, and even recently, that we should be grateful that they let us live in this country. So I thought about that.
That is crazy. When I heard that before from somebody, I said, "Are you serious?"
So I've come to realize something. They actually, in order to control us, they have to rely on our gratefulness. Physically, we're stronger. We're the strongest people on earth, period. In fact, even those of us who are here in this country, we are the offspring of the ones that the whip and the cotton fields couldn't kill. We are from the strongest black people on earth because look what we've endured, and yet we are still here. The strength of our woman, the black female, is so strong that she can spit babies in famine, poverty, disease, and still we exist because of the strength of our female. She can drop babies no matter where she's at, and it's because of that we exist. So we cannot be eliminated. The only thing that they can do to control us is to have our agreement that we need to be grateful. So therefore, if they had admitted that we won the Civil War, then who was the one needing to be grateful?
But I think
they would need to be grateful then to us. And that is not something that these people want to be. They want us to like, love, and be grateful to them for saving us from the heathenism of Africa. That's why whenever they show you Africa, they never show you the metropolises in Africa. They only show you the desert and the famine. You never see the buildings, the highways, the railway systems in Africa, basically, unless an African is showing them to you.
Right.
For the most part, what you see is the desert. They want you to understand that we saved you from all of those things. And then Lincoln saved you from the tyranny of slavery, from those evil ones of us. And therefore, you should love us and be grateful. But now when we find out that we actually saved them, they would owe gratefulness, and this is not something that they want to owe.
How does this? We talked about this. We live in a different generation. We live in a digital print world now. How do you think this is going to resonate with today's education system?
Okay.
Because this is what happens. People say, well, this is a different time. That was then. But I'm a firm believer that history repeats itself. If it fucks up somewhere, it says, okay, well, this is where we fucked up. We gave those Negroes guns.
Yeah.
Let's do it different this time. You get where I'm going?
I'm going to answer that question so badly. I've had black people that say, man, that's old news. That has no impact on us at all. Yeah, that's over. That's almost 2 centuries ago. I said, good. I said, then if that's the case, then how important is that? I said, you asked the wrong question of the wrong person. You cannot ask me, why is it so important that I want this information known? You need to ask, why is it so important to keep it hidden? That is the question.
Thank you.
Millions of dollars are spent every year.
Hiding.
Billions, with the B, on school books.
Hiding information.
To hide that from us. Mm-hmm. This is not something that our desire to know this in no way equals their desire for us not to know it.
Well, something else that I know this is different from the Lincoln letters, but I think history in itself, if you don't understand it, then you're going to be crippled by it, because history always comes back. It just comes in different form, and it's usually the ones that know what really happened and say, we're not going to do this time. They already don't know this. They only know this much, so now they sneak this back in, and no one will be the wiser.
Right. Exactly. Which is how they even claim that Christianity was theirs, and they're going to teach us Christianity.
Put that mic up to you.
Which is why they claim Christianity is theirs, and they're going to teach us Christianity. They're going to teach us about the Bible when we wrote it. But that's well,
that was one of the main reasons that slavery was so powerful, because it kept Negroes, Christianity or religion kept Negroes docile.
Their perception of it. One thing I found out you cannot do, you can never remove from the earth what really happened.
Right.
The earth is the best custodian of what took place upon it. You can hide it for so long, but Ethiopia has proven, you can never remove what really happened. You can look at all the broken noses on Egyptian pharaohs where they're trying to hide their blackness. They hated the thought of that. But in reality, that's who they were. That's who they were. And biblically speaking, the first 2 lands mentioned in the Bible, are Cushite lands. In Genesis, the first 2, Genesis 2nd chapter, 11th verse, this first river leading out of Eden encompassed the entire land of Havilah. That's the son of Cush. The Genesis 2:13, the second river leading out of Eden encompassed the entire land of Ethiopia.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to think about this. And I hear this from a lot of people, not black, both black and white, in other cultures, Africans and so on and yours. If blacks were so superior, why did they crumble?
Well, but then let's ask, if Romans were so superior, why did they crumble?
Limited resources could be one, but that's not the case.
Most places are defeated. Many of them are defeated internally. I'm not sophisticated enough to give you an in-depth analogy of why they actually failed. There are those who do know that. And in fact, you should have them on your show.
Yeah.
You should have them on your
Somebody's
show.
going to listen and going to call me and say, hey, let me
get involved in that, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a reason. But one thing you cannot deny is their existence. So in the terms of this book, why this book? Why should anybody study this book? Because it's true. I'll ask anybody. That's just fine. We spend our money on school dollars, our tax dollars on schools. Did you want them school teaching that your child 2 + 2 is 3? Schools have an option of not teaching a particular curriculum. But if they're going to teach math, they do not have the option of teaching 2 + 2 is 3. Now, if you're going to teach history, You do not have the option of lying about it. Now, if you choose not to teach it, fine. But if you're going to teach it, then teach it. And in reality, black people won the Civil War. What I want students, I want kids, parents to buy this book, send their child to school with this book, and tell the teachers.
And that's question. That's open up intelligent conversation.
Right. So, some teachers, what y'all been teaching us about Lincoln, about the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln don't agree with y'all. You see, because my commentary is not the star of this book. Lincoln's letters.
It's the star.
And by the way, for those who are listening, his letters are italicized, so you can tell the difference between him speaking and me speaking. All of his letters are italicized, and if you see an italicized letter, it is the word of Lincoln himself. I even left his misspellings in place. I left his poor grammar in place. I left all of that in place. I altered them none. So when you're looking at it, this is the actual words that Abraham Lincoln himself wrote.
How is the book being received so far? Before we wrap up, how has it been received?
2 ways. I've had some educators that are running away from this book like the plague. I've had black educators who have read this book, who are now, because of their feelings or their fear or whatever reason, are actually going to school and now knowingly lying to these children.
After they
they read the book.
Because they are afraid of losing their job, ridicule, and opening up Pandora's box.
Of which I'm never going to close again. I'm not putting Pandora back in the box.
What steps are you taking? I noticed you quoted
This is a step.
some sites.
This is a step. This book is on Amazon. Actually, if you just put on Amazon in his own words and put my name, Tom Bailey, in his own words and put Tom Bailey, this book will pop up in paperback and in ebook form. I'm going to get on as many podcasts as I can. The journey that I'm on, I don't know how to do it. Now, getting here, I sent you an email.
Now, let's talk about your sister. Let's talk about your sister. She's an educator. What does she think about this? Talk about Pat real quick.
My sister is one of the most. She's my little sister, by the way, too.
Yeah,
she's one.
Yeah,
of the
look
most,
just alike.
Yeah, except for. Let me tell you.
I know she's gonna be like Andre.
Let me tell you a story. I mean, just tell you a story, okay? Because we were young at this time, okay?
Yeah.
Now we're truthful people, okay? But we were in the ghetto, and we were getting broke in on. In fact, I actually caught one dude in my house, and he paid for all the other thieves who had broke in on me. Or he paid for all of them when I caught him. But we wanted to get out the ghetto. Now, see, she's the yellow baby, all right? She's so light skinned that unless you look at our features, you don't know we're related.
Right.
So to get out the ghetto, we played husband and wife. We did. We played husband and wife, and we got an apartment in Oak Park. Well, I had the front of the apartment, and she had the back, and that was our trek out of the ghetto, so that we can now prosper. But my sister is one of the most dynamic people to walk this earth.
Yeah.
This chick, and I do mean chick, is so strong. Had my nephew. Did not have any help. Would backpack him through snow to the L train, to the bus stop every day, singing to him all the way. Never cried, never asked for help, never woe is me. I have never seen anybody so driven. She works 16 hours a day on her own accord to achieve. I do not have what she has in terms of drive. She is to really be copied in terms of how to get things done. Because once she is focused on a goal, it will get accomplished. In fact, both my sisters are this way, actually. And
you have another sister?
I got another. There's 6 of us, man.
Wow. Okay.
There were 6 of us.
And it's not like Pat isn't enough. There's others.
No, there's others. And, because there's sometimes when I don't want to tell all business. There's sometimes you have to go up against that strength.
Yeah.
In times of disagreement where she really thought she was right, you got to deal with that.
Yeah.
But when I'm dealing with a character trait that she was wrong, but I'm dealing with a character trait that I actually admire. I have the greatest of admiration for my little sister.
What does she think about your book? What did your whole family think about your book and your quest?
Well, believe it or not, they weren't that excited about it. Last year, my health was threatened. I actually thought that that it was going to be my last year on Earth. So I tried to give the book away, and talked to relatives. Please take this book. This information needs to be known. They have lied to us about American history, significant American history that we are a part of, and I can find nobody to do it. So then I heard God whisper to me, I gave that to you. And my health began to improve. My life was severely threatened. I'm healthy now. I'm back doing what I like to do.
Which is roller skating, and
motorcycling,
researching.
Researching. I'm functioning as I did, and God has showed me, okay, good. I gave this to you. I'm going to give you time to do it. And so
Why do you think God gave you this particular mission with Abraham Lincoln? I think the viewers need to know, out of everything you could have researched, from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King to Huey Newton to the rise and fall of the civil rights movement, why this?
Outside of normal English etiquette, I have a deep-seated hatred for bullshit.
Okay.
I am not well read as a person. Whenever you lied to me as a child, and I staked my belief on life on what you had said, I had a guy tell me one time, he's riding his motorcycle, black guy. I'm 13 years old, and he says, the police were chasing me. He said, I turned my throttle on my motorcycle, jumped over a roadblock, and I outran the police. I mean, that was a great story. I couldn't wait. And at this time, this is the first time I was at a white school, which only happened twice in my life. Okay, so I couldn't wait to get to school and go tell this wonderful, great story. How this guy jumped over a roadblock and I ran the police. And this little white boy looks at me. He says, "You're lying." What? He said, "Can no motorcycle jump over no roadblock?" I hadn't considered that, because not being a liar innately. Don't get me and my sister, we did play husband and wife, but I'm not a liar innately.
Right.
I didn't consider that this guy was lying.
Right.
I was and then when I thought about, that's right, can't no motorcycle jump over no roadblock. And it embarrassed me so in front of these white people, okay? My next thought was, why did he do that? Why did he take 15 minutes out of his life where he could have informed me of something legitimate and just run this straight bull on me?
Right.
And to where I believed that, and I was set off on a mission to tell this great story. So God picked me to tell this one because I have a deep-seated hatred for bullshit. Yeah, wow. I mean, I do. I really do. And being as how I'm not that well read, what I've learned from people, which is why being a barber was really great for me.
Right.
Because being a barber, and barbers will know, barbers say, whatever I needed to know or wanted to know, within a week, somebody would sit in my chair who knew it. I would make them look good. Not only would they educate me, they'd get up, pay me, and tip me. It was wonderful. Being a barber was a wonderful way to make a living.
Yeah.
You see, because it allowed me to learn without reading, because I'm attention deficit. If you want to hide something from me, put it in a 300-page book. It's top secret. I'll never find it. Okay. I read books this size. The size of the book that I wrote is the size of books that I read.
This is a pretty good. So, what did you tell me, Dre? It's not a lot to read, but it's informative.
But it's focused, right.
Yeah.
I start off with what this book is about. I end the book with what it is about. I don't have any foo-foo. I have another book I wrote and called What's in It for God. And they wanted me to add more to the book. I said, but that's foo-foo. That's not my point. That's not what I'm trying to make. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to inform.
Right.
And so when I'm reading a book, I'm not there to be entertained. I'm there to be informed.
Yeah.
So little books. In fact, this is really crazy. I read comic books that I was 24, almost 25 years old.
So did I.
And I found how many philosophies did you find in a Marvel comic book? I mean, there were so many there, and that was so great for me because it came to me quickly. When I want to know something, I want to know it. Don't play with me. I'm here for a particular thing. Answer my question. If it's about life, it's about technical things or whatever, that's what I want. So I'm very good at reading those things that are what I want to know. I mean, I can read technical manuals. I can read manuals, for example, on my motorcycle, how to do this engine and that sort of thing. But to hear about, or to go all the way around the mulberry bush to get to where I want to go, I'm not that guy.
So what's next for you? You just did this book. What's next for you?
Oh, I haven't finished this yet. There is no next for me. Right now, this is what is going to consume. I mean, I have those things that I do to earn a living, but professionally, I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
I still carry an insurance license, and so I do some health benefits and everything. I just finished an assignment, which we talked about that, just a couple of weeks ago. I was doing the benefits for AutoZone, and so that is my side hustle. I don't really have any other professional interests. I'm very comfortable with where I am in life. I'm not that greedy. I don't need a lot of money. What I want to do right now, my goal is to have the history books in this country that are taught in school to reflect what actually happened in the Civil War. Now, this is what's interesting here. This book is going to be attempted, I'm sure, to be banned, but by law, they cannot ban the words of Abraham Lincoln himself by law. In fact, because in Indiana, it's 20-50-30-5. It's Indiana code. The letters of any former presidents or anything of that nature must be presented unaltered and in their entirety, in the school system, which means that you cannot remove them from the school system, nor can you alter them within the school system. So those schools or whatever that would choose not to let the book in, fine, don't use the book. Just use the letters.
Yeah, you're going to get it out one way or another.
Just print the letters out.
Yeah.
Just have somebody type out the letters and print the letters out and present them to the classes, and they cannot be messed with. In fact, they'll be opening themselves up. If they try to ban that, they'll be opening themselves up to litigation.
Wow.
You see, so this here cannot be, I don't want to use that word, F word, but this cannot be messed with. My book can be messed with. But the letters in here cannot be messed with because they are, in fact, the exact words of Abraham Lincoln himself.
Wow.
So those who are listening in your own state, wherever you are, that law exists in your state.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just want to get on Amazon and get the book, read it, and separate the letters from the book, forget my commentary.
Yeah.
Just go teach the truth. That's all. Just go teach the truth because, see, right now, teachers don't know they're lying. But then once they learn this and they still teach something other than this, now we have an integrity issue. We have an integrity issue at that point, you see.
I want to say thank you so much for taking time to come on and share such a great story about history and how it affected you and how you really want to make a difference and reveal exactly our role in this great country with the words of Abraham Lincoln. You guys make sure you get the book. The book, once again, is in his own words, Lincoln's Letters Revealed by Thomas Bailey Jr.
Black soldiers won the Civil War.
Yeah, it's a great cover. How can the viewers reach out to you?
Reach tbj217@gmail.com. That's my personal email. tbj217@gmail.com.
Make sure you guys reach out, get a copy of the book. And what you going to say? You going to say something before I close out?
Yeah. Those who reject this idea, please also reach out. I want to hear what you have to say. You will not anger me. There's nothing you can do that can make me mad or hurt my feelings. If you are against this information being known, please reach out to me with your opinion, and I will read that and I'll respond to that.
Hey, it ain't for everybody, but it's good to know how people feel about it.
So haters, bring it on. Bring it on. Let's talk.
Let's talk. Okay, Tom, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow, click that button. Sometime all it takes is one click of a button to make a difference in your life or somebody else's life. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.
Thank y'all.